Lastly, we have for loops. So for loops are used when you know exactly how many times you want your loop to run. Common use for this is to iterate over an array. We'll go over arrays later on in the course. But for now, let's just look at the syntax of a for loop. For loop is a little bit unique. There are three things inside of the brackets for the for loop. So let's write it out. Let's do for, put out the brackets. Here we're going to write out our for loop variable. We'll just write int x. It's better practice to define it outside of the for loop. And then here we're going to do x is equal to 0. And then we'll do, well, x is less than 10 here. And then semicolon, and then x plus plus. So let's break this down. We have our first part of for loop, which is our for loop variable is what I like to call it. Then we got our for loop condition, and then the for loop iterator. So this is going to be used to check the logic inside of the for loop to determine if it should keep running or if it should break. Every time it runs, we're going to increment x by 1, or we can do anything here. And then every time the loop runs, it's going to increment by 1. Check this logic, and then increment by 1. Check the logic. So let's run this, and let's see what x is equal to as the loop runs. Let's do printf %d. We'll write value, and then new line, and then comma, and we'll write x. Let's maybe make this equal to 5 instead, just so it doesn't need to run too many times. So let's do Control F5 to let it run, and we can see what's going to be printed out. So the first time the loop runs, it's going to be equal to 0. And we're going to check the condition, and then it's going to run. The next time it runs, it's going to increment by 1, check the condition, and then run. Next time it runs, it's going to increment by 1, check the condition, and then run. So keep in mind, the first time the for loop runs, it just assigns the value, checks the condition, and then runs. After the first time, it will always increment and then check the condition and then run. So let's run out the debugger to see what the values are equal to. Let's do the debugger right here. Let's stop it on the for loop and press F5. Now we can see we're stopped right here. So we're going to press step into, and right now it's x is equal to 0. It's going to skip and then go up and around. So now x is still equal to 0, but now we're checking the condition. So now we're going to press step into again. It's hard to see, but it is going to increment first and then check the condition, because now x is equal to 1, and then it's going to keep running over and over again until x is equal to 5. What's important is that right now the value of x is 4. You can even see down here it's 4. When we go over again, step over, we're going to increment by 1, and then we're going to check the conditions. 5 is not less than 5, right? 5 is equal to 5. So this condition is now going to be false. It's going to break out of the loop and then exit the program. One cool thing what we can do is we can change this to make it increment by any number. So it doesn't have to be just 1. We can make it increment by, let's just say 5, and let's change this to 25. And we can see that it's going to go from 0 up to 20. Let's do Control F5, and it's going to run. It's going to 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. And then once it loops around, once it's 20, it's going to be x plus 5, which would be 25. And then 25 is not less than 25. It's equal to 25. So it's going to break the loop here and exit the program, which is what it does. That's all you need to know for now for loops. We'll get into more complex examples later on in the course.